Have you ever heard the term be yourself? And we are often told that we should be ourselves, we should be who we are, we should make sure that we are true to ourselves, all these different things. Well, I want to give you a different perspective on that and tell you why this may not be the wisest approach in thinking when it comes to our life, our success, where we're trying to go. Now, when you really think about this whole term, be yourself, what comes to your mind? What do you really think about? And who are you? So before someone could say, I want to be myself, we must ask the question, do you know who you are? And most people will say that, if they're honest, that there's still things that they're still trying to, discover. There's like self-discovery, self-awareness, all these different things. And I've always said before there can be self-improvement, there has to be self-awareness. Now, I want you to think for a minute. When we say be yourself, let's talk about self for a minute. Let me go to my whiteboard. Now, when you consider any particular individual, right? And you look at an individual, and all of us have our own unique, makeup in life, right? And we'll just draw a person here, right? And when we think about self, right? All of us, we're very protective of self because this is the very essence of who we are, right? Like it's we almost feel like we're hurting ourselves to not protect ourselves. Our brain is wired to protect self. So it is just, you can kick over a rock and all the insects will run. They have a self-preserving nature. Everything has a self-preserving nature that is, in nature today, the animal kingdom, the community of mankind, humans, all of these different dynamics, marine life, everything is going to try to protect itself. Now, the challenge is this has nothing to do with who we are and how good or bad we are. It just means we want to protect self, right? So this is where we get selfish, right? Or we talk about all these other elements of self, right? And sometimes this can have a positive connotation and sometimes a negative connotation. But let's think for a minute. What has created self? Now, let's look at this. And so, in essence, what effect has childhood had on self, right? Now, with that childhood, there could be positive experiences. There could be negative experiences. In fact, there's always positive and negative experiences that we had in childhood. Who had perfect parents? Well, that's impossible, right? Because everyone has some level of flaw. So a lot of times when we think about however we came up, whether we liked it or we didn't like it, it's all defined by our own life experience and what actually we went through. And in that, we pick up things that are both good and bad, right? And so this is really key. What about life experiences? So what about things that happen in our life, right? That were traumatic or things that hurt us or things that embarrassed us, right? Do you ever had that feeling of being embarrassed, right? What is it that, happened to you, happened to me, that is a life experience that is actually able to help shape how I think, right? So this is very, 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 very important. Now, also, what are your own traits and tendencies, right? That you have, right? Some maybe were inherited and some maybe, I would say almost all of these are things that you just tend to do, right? It's just your makeup. It's what you tend to do. It's your constitution as an individual, like how you think automatically, right? So this is, again, just traits and tendencies. And did you know that when we think about even evil, evil just means not good. And we all have some of that in us. This is why just being born, you don't have to be taught how to tell a lie. There's no class for how to lie when you go through school, right? There's no kindergarten class for like, everyone turn to chapter 3, we're going to learn how to lie. You already have this built in. So the first time you ever got in a situation where you thought you were going to get in trouble, you lied, right? And you had to learn that was wrong and how to tell the truth. Why? Because there's something in us already. So look, there's a lot in us when we say self, right? So the challenge is when we say be yourself, that's a big statement considering the fact that a lot of us have things from childhood that weren't good. We've got wounds from life experiences, and we got some traits and tendencies that aren't good. And all of us have some evil inside, right? Which just means something in us that's not good, that could be better, right? I know evil sounds like a bad word, but just look at it as the opposite of good, something that's not good. So when you consider that, we actually have to realize something, okay? So we're made up as a tripart creature. So there is your spirit that has to do with the way you portray things to others, your attitude, the way your tendency to respond to things, your demeanor, how you act, right? There is the soul. And this is something that is actually the real you on the inside. Everybody, anything living has a soul, right? And that's where decisions are made. That's where the conscience is, right? And then there is the body. The body is driven in the control center by the brain, and all of these systems that make up the body, your circulatory system, your respiratory system, all these systems are operated from the brain, and they all make up the body. But the body is not the decision maker. The brain is actually a source of ideas, but the soul is what really makes the decision. You ever think about the fact that when you sit and you get ideas and you think, and then that's something in you that says, I want to do this. Well, what is that, right? That's not the body, right? The brain doesn't just do that, right? There is a person, right? The real person is you, the soul. So we know there is a soul. Now, when you understand that there is a soul, and that soul is the decision maker, that's why when you hear us talk about you are a CEO, we're in essence saying you are a soul, because the soul is the decision maker. It is the real you. It is the person on the inside that can choose to do good or do evil. It is very important to recognize that we're a soul, because we don't have a soul. We're robots. We don't have a choice if we don't have soul. If we have a soul, though, we have the ability to choose. The question is, what options are available for us to choose based on what we know? Now, some people have more information about business, so their decisions expand. The soul can choose from many different things. If you know more about you've been educated about how to work with people, then your soul has a greater decision platform to work from, because it's been exposed to more information. So even though the body, which has the brain, has a memory center and has all these things we've heard and read but when it's all those options are there, the soul has many more options to choose from, because you've put more inside of the brain to pull from. So the soul does work with the body, but the soul is still the decision maker. That is the real you. You are living in a house looking outside, right? Looking out the windows. So this is why, if you believe in anything spiritual, to understand that, if you only know so much spiritually, then those are the options available to you, right? So even though you're a spiritual being and you have a soul, if you don't know more information, if you don't have more information about, spiritual things, you're going to be limited to what's around you, right? And just the natural things you see and hear. So this is why what you learn is so important. What you actually hear is so important. Now, once we actually listen and once we actually hear something and we begin to learn something, the key is, because we do have a decision-making power, we actually decide what type of person we want to become. Now, let's go back here for a minute. And I want you to understand that we think, and then we feel, right? And then we act. This is how we are made. But think about it. You only can think about things that you've learned. And some things you learned by birth. It was just already there, right? Like I said, you knew how to lie. Some things you learned through life experiences, but you interpreted the meaning. So that's the key. Your thoughts are coming from the things that you've learned that you have put a meaning to. So some people got hurt in a relationship and said all men, I feel this way about all men or all women, or certain people throughout history had issues with certain, classifications of people, right? Trying to define people by races and stuff, which I don't believe in race, but the human race. But people have tried to put people in races, right? And define certain things because someone taught them that, right? And to be themselves, they would continue to be that way. So being yourself is one of the most dangerous things that you could ever be, right? What we want to do is learn, how can I get better thoughts by getting exposed to better information, right? Be willing to learn more about my past and learn things in the present so that I can decide what type of future that I want, right? So think about this. Now, because of this think, feel, act, I have the ability to make a decision. Now, I decide now, right? I'm actually now deciding what I will do. I'm deciding who I want to be. I'm deciding what I want to show, right? And so really what we're saying is we want to move away from the thinking of be yourself. We want to transition to be your best self. Now, the reason this is so important when we say be your best self, this means you have to define what best means for you. And you have to take time, right, to learn something. And the more you learn, I want you to keep this in mind. This is very important. The more that you learn, remember that the past, right? Let me write this down for you. The past is always being defined by the present. So, have you ever had a situation where something happened in the past, you thought it was the end of the world, and then later on you realize it was one of the best things that ever happened to you because it made you stronger, it taught you this, it taught you that, and now it's even helping you. I can have so many things in my life that happened that I wish never had happened at the time, but now I realize it's one of the greatest things that it helped make me stronger, make me a better man, because the present began to redefine the past. And as you grow, you start to look at the past differently, and you start to understand what it means to you now. So the past is always being redefined by the present. So we have to learn how to grow enough and get exposed to more information about self and about things that cause us to grow, such that we can redefine our past and make it more useful to the future. And this is what we're talking about. And so I want you to keep this in mind. This is what we're doing. We don't want to focus on being ourselves. We want to focus on being our best self. And when we understand that, you'll never say, I just want to be yourself, be myself. I want to be my best self. And I can only do that by being willing to grow, not staying where I have been and even where I am, but I'm always moving forward. Keep that in mind and you'll be able to be the CEO of your life. Keep charging forward, expanding and overcoming, because here at URCO, we believe in being the CEO of everything that we have control over, because we are a soul and not a body. Keep making the right decision.